10 years after my wife vanished from my life without a trace, we crossed paths in a supermarket. She saw me with my new wife, froze, and fled. Minutes later, I got a message that turned my blood cold. Divorce her now. You have no idea who she really is. That was the moment I realized my quiet life was built on a lie. It had been 10 years since Michelle left. No goodbye conversation, no fight to end it all, just a two-sentence note on the kitchen counter. You've lost your ambition. I need more. Then silence. She blocked me on every platform, changed her number, moved to another city. I didn't hear from her again until today. It started like any normal afternoon. I was at the grocery store with my wife, Lena. We were halfway down the cereal aisle, joking about how every box seemed to shrink but cost more. Lena reached for a box, smiled at me, and then it happened. A clatter behind us. I turned, and there she was, Michelle, frozen mid-step, staring right at Lena. Her expression wasn't just surprise, it was fear. She looked like she'd seen something, or someone she thought was long gone. Before I could even say her name, she turned and walked off. Fast, nearly running. I stood there stunned. Lena noticed too. Weird, she said, nudging me. That woman looked at me like I ran over her cat. I forced a laugh. Maybe you did. In a past life. We didn't talk about it again. Paid for our groceries. Headed to the car. But just as I was loading bags into the trunk, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Divorce her now. You have no idea who she really is. Please call me. I'm not joking. The message hit me like a punch to the chest. I knew that style. Terse. Dramatic. It had to be Michelle. 10 years, not a word. And now this? I didn't respond. What could I say? I showed Lena the text, playing it off like a prank. She raised an eyebrow, clearly weirded out, but didn't ask questions. That was Lena. Low drama, high trust. She always took me at my word. That made what happened next even harder. That night, I barely slept. The message played over and over in my mind. You have no idea who she really is. It was too specific to ignore. I watched Lena as she slept, her breathing slow, peaceful. She looked like everything I ever wanted. Compassionate, generous, loyal. She'd been with me through my mother's illness, volunteered at shelters, showed me what real partnership felt like. Compared to Michelle, she was a revelation. But the doubt had been planted. By morning, I'd made a decision. I texted back, "What are you talking about, Michelle?" No reply. I tried searching for her online. She had a new last name, a private profile, but I found enough. The glamorous life she left me for, marrying a tech CEO, oceanfront property, had collapsed. Her husband had filed for divorce 3 years ago. Public court records showed messy proceedings, accusations of infidelity, fraud, and asset manipulation, but nothing that explained the warning. Then came the email. Subject line. You need to see this. No greeting, no sign-off. Just an attachment. A scanned police report from 8 years ago. A fraud investigation in Phoenix. Different name, different city. But the photo, the face staring back, it was Lena. My stomach flipped. Same eyes, same jawline. Her hair was darker in the mugshot, but it was her, or rather someone named Elena Monroe. The charge, identity theft and financial fraud. The report said she'd scammed a couple out of thousands, then disappeared. I stared at the screen for an hour, hoping it was a coincidence. It wasn't. I called Michelle. She answered on the second ring. Her voice was tight. I didn't want to contact you. I meant to stay gone. But when I saw her, I couldn't. Who was she? I asked. 8 years ago, she destroyed my best friend's life. Seduced her husband, cleaned out their accounts, and vanished. No one found her, until I saw her with you. That's not proof. Look at the report again. Page 4. I opened it. Known alias, Elena Monroe. Current alias, Lena Grace. I dropped the phone. My Lena, the one person I trusted above everyone else, might be a fraud, a professional one. And if Michelle was telling the truth, Lena didn't just lie, she made a career out of it. I didn't confront Lena, not yet. Instead, I pretended everything was fine. If she was really who Michelle claimed she was, then I needed more than a police report and an old email. I needed certainty. I needed evidence. The next morning, Lena left early for her usual Saturday yoga class. As soon as the door shut, I opened my laptop and pulled up the file Michelle had sent. I zoomed in on the photo. There was something Michelle mentioned, a birthmark near the collarbone. I checked. It was there. It had been a passing detail when Lena first pointed it out to me years ago. Ugly little thing, she'd said, brushing it off. I hadn't thought twice. Now it was the missing puzzle piece. I ran a reverse image search using the mugshot. One match from a local news article years back. A woman named Elena Monroe was investigated in a financial fraud case involving a man named Graham Whitman. The article was vague, details scrubbed after the civil suit was sealed. No convictions, no jail time, just whispers and suspicion. I kept digging. The deeper I went, the darker it got. Elena had multiple aliases, different cities, a pattern of wealthy men, large transfers, sudden disappearances, always charming, always convincing, and always gone before the dust settled. One man had filed a lawsuit, another had tried to press charges but recanted. One, according to an obscure obituary, died in a car crash 3 months after his lawsuit was resolved. I couldn't prove it meant anything, but something about the timing unsettled me. I wasn't the first, and I wouldn't be the last, unless I did something. That afternoon, Lena returned as if nothing had changed. She kissed my cheek, asked if I wanted Thai for dinner. I smiled and agreed. Meanwhile, I reached out to someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Ethan, a cybersecurity expert I knew from college. I gave him the full story. He didn't laugh. He didn't judge. He just asked for details. Names, dates, photos, timelines. I sent everything. He promised to work discreetly and warned me, if she's a real con artist, she knows how to cover her tracks. Be careful. People like that only play nice when they think they're winning. I believed him. 2 days later, Ethan called back. His voice was grave. David, you're in deep. He found records, sealed court documents. 4 men in total had been linked to someone fitting Lena's profile. Elena Monroe, Elena Morris, Lena Grace. 3 of the men had lost everything. Homes, accounts, even business licenses. All of them disappeared from the public eye after the fallout. No one had been able to tie it together before. But now, with the aliases and overlapping dates, Ethan could map the pattern. Lena was never random. She chose targets, men with property, clean records, and emotional vulnerabilities. She played the long game, made them fall in love, trust her, then stripped them bare. And now it was my turn. I was the next name on the list. I froze our joint bank accounts the same day. Lena didn't notice. I had a separate investment account I never told her about. I redirected all paper mail to a secure P.O. box. Quietly, I called my lawyer and revisited our prenup. To my relief, there was a clause, a small one, but enough to prevent any property claims unless both signatures were made in person and notarized. Lena had no idea. But then something happened that shifted everything into overdrive. She forgot to log out of her iCloud on our shared tablet. I wasn't snooping. I opened it to check the weather. But a message popped up from a group chat labeled Yoga Girls. The latest post wasn't about yoga. Sandra, how's the retirement plan coming? Lena, he's almost there. He trusts me completely. 2 more months, Max. Once the house is in both our names, we're golden. I read it 3 times. There was no ambiguity, no way to spin it. Lena was scamming me, smiling, sleeping in my bed, cooking dinner, and all the while planning her exit. I didn't confront her that night, or the next. Instead, I planned. The next time she brought up the house, I agreed, smiled, said, "You're right. It's time we put everything in both our names." Her eyes lit up. "Really?" "Of course," I said. "I trust you with everything." That was the moment I knew I'd won, because she believed it. She bought every word. She had no idea the storm was already forming behind her. That night I couldn't sleep, not out of fear, but anticipation. This wouldn't just be a breakup. It wouldn't be an argument or a quiet split with lawyers and paperwork. It would be justice, the kind that leaves no room for a comeback. Everything she said, I recorded. It started with a conversation about real estate. Lena brought it up casually one morning over coffee. When we go to the notary, do you think we should add a clause for inheritance? Just in case? I nodded like I cared about legal language. Inside, I was noting the time, tone, wording. I had a microphone installed in the smoke detector above the kitchen table. One-party consent was legal in our state. I was the one party. She thought she was planning her future. In truth, she was building her own case file. I continued my role. Loving husband, easygoing, just naive enough to be believable. Meanwhile, I kept feeding Ethan more information. He dug deeper into Lena's previous victims, mapping out each case. One in Austin, one in Tampa, one in Flagstaff. Each followed the same formula: new identity, emotional attachment, financial gain, sudden departure. All men in their late 30s to early 50s. All financially secure, emotionally generous, socially quiet. Lena picked men who wouldn't fight back, who wouldn't want public embarrassment. She counted on discretion, on shame, on silence. I wasn't that man. One night I told her I wanted to plan a surprise trip for our anniversary. Just us, I said. Somewhere nice. Let's celebrate properly this year. She smiled, kissed my hand, told me I was too good to be true. I had no intention of taking her anywhere. Instead, I coordinated with Ethan and my lawyer. We set up a controlled meeting, an intervention with legal weight. I even contacted Kevin Whitman, the brother of one of Lena's former victims. He didn't hesitate. "You found her?" he asked. "I've been waiting 10 years to see her answer for what she did to my family." He agreed to fly out. Lena was too confident. That's what made the plan work. She believed the illusion so completely that she stopped hiding her intent. I caught her on tape discussing the notary visit. "Once it's official," she told her friend Sandra over the phone, "we start the transfer. A month, tops. He won't even see it coming." That call sealed it. I emailed the audio to my attorney. He sent it to law enforcement contacts. It wasn't enough for an arrest, not yet. But combined with the past evidence and testimony, it was enough to open an official investigation. I needed one more thing: public exposure, not just legal consequences. I wanted her mask ripped off in front of people she respected, people she believed she had fooled. So I invited everyone she charmed: friends from our neighborhood, her co-workers from the nonprofit where she volunteered, my friends from work. Our anniversary dinner would double as the stage for her undoing. I booked a private room at her favorite upscale restaurant. I let her choose the wine. I let her pick the table setting. She had no idea that every decision she made helped tighten the net. Ethan set up a small projector. Kevin arrived the night before and went over the details with the lawyer. The detective, one Lena had no clue was watching her, was briefed and ready. Everything was in place. The day of the dinner, Lena was glowing. She thought she was winning, thought this was her final stretch before the reward. I watched her closely, every word, every glance. The closer she got to her downfall, the more charming she became. I didn't feel pity, I felt resolve. At 8:05 p.m., I got the signal from Ethan. Guests were in position, projector was connected, the detective had arrived. Lena noticed Ethan first. "Is that Ethan from your firm?" she asked, tilting her head. "What's he doing here?" I smiled. "He said he might drop by." She nodded slowly, uncertain. "Is something going on?" The waiter approached, ready to take our order. I raised a hand. "Before we start, I'd like to give a toast." She lifted her glass, still unsure. "And then," I began. "This night marks 5 years since Lena came into my life," I said. "She's been my partner, my confidant, my greatest joy." She smiled. "But tonight isn't just an anniversary. It's a reveal." Her smile faltered. The doors opened. First Kevin, then my lawyer, then Ethan, then the detective, badge visible. Lena's eyes flicked between them, panic blooming. "What is this?" she whispered. I didn't answer. I nodded to Ethan, who pressed the remote. The projector blinked on. Slide 1, her mugshot labeled Elena Monroe. Slide 2, the group chat messages with Sandra, projected word for word. Slide 3, audio recording, her voice, her plan. And finally slide 4, notarized property documents unsigned with her name pre-filled, evidence of her intention. The room went silent. Lena turned to me, eyes wide. "This is insane," she said. "You're setting me up." I stood. No, I'm just turning on the lights. The detective stepped forward. Ms. Monroe, aka Lena Grace, you are currently under investigation for fraud, property manipulation, and involvement in a series of interstate scams. Lena pushed back from the table. You can't do this. I'm not doing anything, I said. You did this. I just stopped pretending not to notice. She tried to leave. The detective blocked her path. The room stayed frozen for several long seconds after the detective spoke. Lena didn't move. She looked between the badge, the projector screen, and me, searching for a way out. A lie that might work. A way to reset the moment. But there was none. Ms. Monroe, the detective said again, I'm going to need you to sit down and remain calm. Instead, Lena stepped back and tried to pivot toward the door. Two other guests, both off-duty officers briefed in advance, were already moving. She realized she was surrounded. Her plan was over. I didn't do anything, she yelled, voice high and shaking. He's staging this. This is insane. You can dispute everything, the detective replied, but not here. You'll have that opportunity through legal counsel. It wasn't a formal arrest yet, not tonight, but the paperwork had already started moving. With the evidence we'd compiled, fraud attempts, false identities, and recorded confessions, it was only a matter of time. The investigator would file charges within days. Tonight wasn't about handcuffs. It was about exposure. I turned to the guests. I know this is unexpected, I said. Some of you know Lena from her charity work. Others have met her through me. But the woman I invited into my life wasn't real. She wasn't just hiding secrets. She was running a scam, one that's hurt multiple people across several states. Lena tried to shout something, maybe a denial, but Kevin stepped forward. You took my brother's life, he said. He didn't die in that car crash because of you. But you broke him before it happened. You ruined everything he built, and you never even looked back. Her face twisted, but she didn't speak again. Someone from the back of the room, a woman I didn't know, stood up and quietly left. Maybe she had believed in Lena. Maybe she had been conned too. That was the thing about professional liars. They never stopped at one target. The dinner never resumed. The projector shut down. The guests dispersed. Lena was told to report to the station for questioning the next morning. She didn't argue. She didn't even cry. She just walked out, flanked by the detective and his team, head down. Maybe she knew the game was over. Or maybe she was already planning a new identity, a new name, a new mark. But not this time. I filed a restraining order the next day, locked down everything she'd ever touched. My lawyer issued an immediate claim for attempted fraud on the property documents. We submitted all recordings to law enforcement. Ethan helped compile a timeline dossier for the DA's office. Kevin, with legal backing, reopened his family's civil case. For the first time, she wasn't slipping through the cracks. The news picked it up within a week. Local stories about the Grace Con circulated with her photo, both current and from the old police report. More victims came forward. Men who'd never pressed charges out of embarrassment. One had lost a condo, another half his retirement savings. Her strategy had been consistent. Isolate, build trust, then drain. She'd gotten away with it for nearly a decade. But now her face was everywhere. Her employer, the nonprofit, suspended her without comment. Her accounts were frozen. Her email was flagged in multiple ongoing investigations. The woman who once lived under 3 different names was finally out of places to hide, and yet the aftermath didn't feel like triumph. Not exactly. I'd loved her, in my own way, trusted her, built a life with her. I had to reconcile the fact that everything, the vacations, the plans, the laughter, had all been tools to her, part of a strategy. But that wasn't my ending. Instead of retreating, I did something else. I wrote, not about her, not directly, but about the mechanics of emotional fraud, about coercion, manipulation, and what it feels like to question your own perception. I worked with a trauma counselor to build a framework for people in similar situations, especially men, who often felt too ashamed to speak up. Within a year, the book went viral. Podcast interviews followed, then speaking events, then workshops. People assumed I was angry, that I wrote the book to get even. But the truth was simpler. I wasn't trying to destroy Lena. I was trying to make sure no one else fell for someone like her again. Because fraud doesn't just steal money, it steals time, confidence, identity. And recovery begins the moment you stop asking how it happened and start asking what you'll do next. By the time Lena's trial date was announced, I didn't care if I was there. I'd already walked away from her, and from the person I'd been while she was in my life. I wasn't seeking revenge. I was reclaiming my story. Lena's arraignment was brief, but the charges were substantial. Multiple counts of fraud, false identity, and attempted property theft. Though she pled not guilty, the evidence left little room for doubt. The prosecution had the recordings, the messages, her digital trail, and, perhaps most damning, a list of victims who were finally willing to speak. Some had been silent for years, shamed into hiding their losses, embarrassed that they'd trusted the wrong person. But seeing Lena exposed gave them strength. She wasn't the charming woman with a good story anymore. She was a known predator, and this time, she was going to face the consequences. Kevin testified during the pretrial hearings. I sat in the back of the courtroom, unnoticed. He didn't hold back. He spoke about his brother, Graham, how after the civil case was settled, Graham isolated himself. His business failed. His confidence never returned. Months later, he died in a car accident no one could fully explain. No drugs, no alcohol, just speed and distraction. The coroner ruled it accidental, but Kevin knew it wasn't. He was already gone before he hit the tree, Kevin said on the stand. Because of her. His words didn't land like accusations. They landed like facts. Cold, heavy truths Lena could no longer twist. Over the next few months, the court moved deliberately. Her assets were frozen, her accounts traced. The IRS joined the investigation after Ethan found signs of unreported income linked to one of her aliases. It wasn't just state charges anymore. Federal prosecutors were reviewing everything. She was out on bail but restricted. No travel, no new bank accounts, monitored communication. Her name, now infamous, made finding work impossible. The nonprofit where she once played the role of selfless advocate officially disavowed her. Friends vanished. Even her family, who had once backed her blindly, went silent. She reached out once, a short email. No apology, just a line. You had no right. I didn't reply, because I had every right. To protect myself, to uncover the truth, to make sure she could never do this again. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The jury took 2 days to convict. Guilty on all counts. Her sentencing hearing followed a month later. The courtroom was half full, mostly press and legal observers. A few of the men she had targeted sat quietly behind the prosecution's table. I didn't plan to speak, but when the judge opened the floor, I stood. Not for her, for everyone like her. I'm not here because I lost money, I said. I'm here because I almost lost myself. Because this wasn't just a financial crime. It was a campaign built on deception, intimacy, and emotional control. I paused. The room was silent. People like her don't just steal assets. They steal years, peace of mind, trust. And they do it because the system often lets them. But not this time. Lena didn't look at me. She stared forward, unmoved. She was sentenced to 8 years with a chance of parole after 5. The civil suits from Kevin and others were still pending, but she wouldn't walk out of prison with a clean record or a dollar in her name. Justice wasn't perfect, but it was delivered. After the trial, I stepped away from the spotlight. I stopped doing interviews, declined the book deal for a sequel. I didn't want to be defined by Lena or by the trap she set. I wanted a real life, one with quiet mornings, honest conversations, and no hidden agendas. It took time, but I rebuilt. I met people who didn't wear masks, friends who didn't want favors. I went back to work, returned to my old hobbies, visited my dad more. The simple things that felt like luxuries after what I'd been through. And every now and then, someone would recognize me from the book or a podcast. They'd stop, say thank you, and share their own story. A bad relationship, a manipulative partner, a betrayal they thought they couldn't survive. I always told them the same thing. You don't heal when they're punished. You heal when you stop living in their shadow. Because that's what Lena was, a shadow. And I'd stepped back into the light.